Okay, so I guess we are live now. So hello, good evening everyone. I hope you all are doing good, and let's continue with the session. So today is day 14, and in the last lectures we have done a couple of things. Okay, let me just close this mail client. Yeah, let me close everything so that we should not get any other notification. Yeah. Okay, so we started with Java, then we started some part of Selenium, then we started TestNG, and today we will continue with our TestNG features. Okay, so before we start, I quickly want to check with all of you. Can you guys quickly confirm, am I audible properly, and can you see my screen as well? So we have Manoj, Ayappa, Nishant, Soumya, Subhas, Sukumal. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. Soumya Priya says, can you please explain about singleton design pattern? Okay, so Soumya, I can take this request because till now I have only covered page object model design pattern in my YouTube channel, but singleton design pattern is something which I have not covered in the past. So I will try if I can cover directly in this community sessions, or maybe I can upload it separately. Okay, thank you so much for the confirmation. I can see no issue at all. So let's continue with the session. So let's wait for 1 more minute and then we'll continue. Hi Nikita, Gokul, Priyanka, Shravan, Pallavi. Thank you once again for joining. But again, I want to highlight, Soumya, if you go with the singleton design pattern, right, then you will not be able to run the parallel test. Okay, because you will be dealing only with the single instances. So if you have a requirement where you need to run your test in parallel in different browsers, then this design pattern will not be fit for your requirement. Okay, so please understand what is your project requirement, what is your test requirement. Based on that, you need to select a design pattern. But yes, for interview purpose, they might ask you what is singleton design pattern, because page object model and singleton design pattern, this is like generally we use for our automation. We have more than 20 plus design patterns, but two mostly used in test automation. So we have few more: Samir, Vineet, Kajal. Hi everyone, thank you so much. So let's continue. I will quickly open my project. So this is what we have discussed, right? So we started with these examples, and if I quickly show you, so we had written a couple of tests, and then we also have written some more tests with some additional attribute, right? We discussed about priority, we discussed about depends on method, we discussed about description. So these are a couple of annotations we discussed, and purposefully just to fail one test, I added assert here. But today let's understand the assert in detail, different kind of assert that we can use, and what is the difference between hard assert and soft assert, because this is again a very common question in interviews. What is the difference between hard assert and soft assert? So basically we don't have any class as such called hard assert. The assert class itself we call as a hard assert, because it will terminate your program the moment any assertion is not matched. Okay, but in soft assertion, still your test will fail, but it will continue till the end of the execution. At last it will fail. So in order to understand this, let me quickly create one more example, and I will give this class name is my TestNG test3, or maybe I can rename this and I will say assertions demo. Now I cannot use assert exactly because assert is a predefined class, and soft assert is also predefined class. So try to avoid the exact class name which is available already. Now if I click on finish, let me write my first test once again. So public void test1 again, and let me just use @test. Our main intention here to understand the different assert we have. So the moment I type assert, Okay, again you will see we have assert as a separate class. If JUnit and TestNG both are configured in your project, then you will get assert from org.testng and org.testng as well. So make sure you're taking assert from org.testng. And again, if you see, this is again a perfect example of overloading. Can you see the same method name but with a different argument? So when I say different argument, here you can see boolean, boolean, boolean array, boolean array actual, boolean array expected, byte byte, byte array, char and char array. So basically all these methods are overloaded. You just need to remember one method name called assert equals, and all these methods are overloaded. You can also pass the collection, and if you come down here you will get the same equals method but with additional message. Okay, so actual, expected, one message. So this third one is optional. Okay, it means if you don't pass it, it will take the first method, actual, expected, but if you pass this additional message, it's very useful. Why? Because if the assertion is getting failed, this message will be printed in the console, plus this will also get printed in your HTML report as well. Okay, so this is very useful because if assertion fails, you will get some additional message which you have written, not the one which is coming from the TestNG. Apart from that, you will also see we have assert true, assert false, assert null, assert not null, right? And if you see, we can directly also call a method called fail. So let's say if you want to write a custom condition, and if you say if this condition fails, just fail my test. So you can also fail purposefully using fail. So there are a lot of things that is available. So let's see one by one. Obviously you will not be using all of them in real time. Mostly if you just want to stick to the boolean conditions, just stick to assert true, assert false. Okay, and if you just have the actual, I will say the validation, actual versus expected, go the assert equals. Same thing can be tweaked with the assert true, assert false. I will show you, but you don't need to remember all of them. So for example, I just want to compare, let's say, two numbers, or let's say two strings. So let's say assert equals. Okay, take any. First one is actual. Let's say actual is Mukesh, and expected is again Mukesh. So in this case, obviously it will pass and it will not throw any error at all. Okay. Now I want to highlight one more class called reporter. Now this is something which we don't use much, but there's a dedicated reporter class in TestNG. As the name says, it will report your logs in the HTML report plus in the console as well. Now console one is, HTML report is optional. So if you see, we have again a overloaded method. So log with string and boolean, log with string, and you can also give the log label. So we have different log labels, right? Pass, fail, info, warning, fatal, error. You can decide which kind of label you want to provide. So as of now, let's say I want to go with the second one. I will say started. By default it's set to false. Let me make it true. True means I want to print this started in the console as well, plus it will be displayed in my HTML report. So if we just say reporter.log and started, it is equal to system.out.println. But if you pass true, print on the console plus print in the HTML report as well. And same thing I will do here. I will say test started and I will say test ended. Now the reason why I'm giving this reporter to log, because I want to show you the moment you have assertion fail, it will not execute the next statement at all. It will not execute this statement and it will terminate. So if I execute this, okay, can you see? It's working fine because actual assertion, like actual versus expected, both are true. Perfect. But the moment I make this a small m, and if I run this test again, you will see the test will be failed, right? And again, it's showing assertion error, not exception, and it says expected was Mukesh with small m, but found with capital M. Just a second. Okay. Now if I want to give one additional message, I can do it here. Okay, so for example, I will say, let's say message mismatched or not verified, whatever you want to, maybe title not verified, error message is not correct, title is not correct, you can actually pass. This will only come when the test fails. So if I execute again this time, as expected, it says test started, but it is not printing test ended because it is terminating my program from here. Now what about this message, where exactly it is getting printed? It will come in your report the moment you do the refresh part. Go to test output folder, go to default suite. Okay, this is the mess. Just a second, let me drag this here. Can you see this? I know it's totally red color, but the moment you click on show output, can you see this? Test started. Why it is not coming test ended? Because of the assertion error. But because of reporter.log, you can see the messages here. Okay. So it's totally up to you. Do you want to use it or not? If you don't find it useful, it's perfectly fine, because if you're not using the TestNG report for the real final report, obviously it will not make much sense. In that case, you can continue with your extent report logger or the LO report logger, whatever you have. Okay, now let's talk about the second way of doing the same thing. Now, this is one thing that it is case sensitive, right? This is one part. It is case sensitive. Now, if I want to write the same assertion in a different way, is it possible? Yes. But before that, I want to quickly highlight that you can have any different kind of assertion as well. For example, let's say you want to just compare two numbers. Yes, it's possible. If you want to compare, okay, two Boolean values, yes. If you want to compare two lists, yes. So basically it's up to you, how do you want to do this comparison. And as of now, I'm just giving the dummy values because we have not added the actual assertion. But if you're working with Selenium or any other Java library, you will be getting this actual result from the browser or from your APIs or from the mobile. Expected will come from your test cases. So both will match. If yes, pass, otherwise fail. Now same thing if you want to write in a different way, we can also write this in this fashion, right? Assert dot assert true. Now assert true also says I will accept two arguments. One is like it has two method. I will say this method is overloaded. One is assert true with condition. As the name says, assert true will only pass if it will get true. If it will get false, it will fail. So true is expecting true. And again, if you see the second constructor, exactly same, but with a message. So second one is optional. So if this condition evaluates to true, the test will pass, otherwise fail. So just to show you this, I will create a new test. Public void test2 and pass @test here. I will say assert dot assert true. Let me take one string here. Okay, let's say this message I'm taking from application, and I will say username cannot be empty. This is the message that we have, and I just want to compare that the error message that we are getting, it should contain cannot be empty or username cannot be empty or just username. So can I say message dot contains username? Now obviously this condition will evaluate to true because message that I'm giving username cannot be empty, this contains a keyword called username. So this evaluates to true. Assert true is also expecting true, so it will pass. Okay, but in case if we get any other thing, maybe you are getting a wrong message from the web application, or maybe you're getting null from the web application, obviously it will be something else, then your assertion will fail. You can report the bug. And you can write the message here, message cannot be validated, something like this. Reverse is exactly opposite. Assert false will only pass if it will get false. If it will get true, it will fail again. So if you want to reverse this condition, okay, then you can go with assert false as well. Now let me write one more test. Let's say test 3. Can I compare two lists? So let's say if I just create a two list, okay, let's say one list. See, you can create using arrays as well. I'm just going with the standard way. Let's say I added two values. Let's say Mukesh is one of the value in L1. Let me add one more value. Let's say Selenium. What if I have one more list called L2? This also is exactly same, L2.add, L2.add. Now can I compare two lists? Yes. If I say assert equals, okay, let's say L1, L2. Let's execute this. So this time you will get 3 tests will get executed. All are success because we are not making any mistake here. But if I make any change, let's say this L2 have one additional thing called Java. So list 1 2 values, list 3 3 values. Now we are comparing both of them. Now the moment you run this, you will see failure as expected, and can you see it says list don't have the same size, expected was 3 but found 2. And yes, this is actual versus expected, right? So first one is actual, which was L1, which has two values. Expected was L2, which has 3 values. So this will fail. So you can compare two lists, you can compare two sets. So basically here you can pass the actual collection. Can you see this? Assert that two collections contain the same element in the same order. If they do not, an assertion error will be thrown. So this is your hard assert. We don't say this hard, we don't have any class as such, but category wise hard assert and soft assert. Now this is part of your assignment. Okay, it's a very small assignment you can do within 10 seconds as well. I want you to explore about 2 additional things. Maybe after the session, please give a try. You need to explore what is this fail. Okay, and if I say assert dot not null, this you have to explore. Plus you have to also explore assert null. I want to listen from you. What do you understand by assert not null, assert null, and assert dot fail? Hardly it will take one minute for each. So please let me know this by tomorrow. Explore it from your end. I'm sure you can guess easily what they're expecting. And already for the second one, I gave you the hint, right? When to use this. Is this hard assert clear to everyone? Now when to go with assert equals, when to go with assert true false, totally up to you. When you want to do exact matching, you can go with assert equals, but mostly for the Boolean conditions, go with assert true or assert false. It's not fixed, both things can be changed, so it's totally up to you which one you want to go. Is it clear before I move to the hard assert? Sorry, before I move to soft assert. Hard assert we discussed already. Now this question might be little different. What is the difference between assert and verify? See, we don't have any verify here. Verify is available in Selenium IDE. So if I show you, one second, let me check if I have Selenium IDE here. Just a second. Extension Selenium IDE. No, I don't think I have here. So this verify was available in Selenium IDE, and assert is coming from TestNG. So answer is same. verify will fail at the end, okay, but it will even continue even if your some conditions are not getting true, but at the end it will fail. Same thing will do with the hard assert as well, sorry, soft assert. Now let me take few questions. Yeah, Yashwant says, hi Mukesh, currently I'm working as automation engineer and now I got an opportunity on Salesforce testing. So can I know the future of Salesforce testing? So Yashwant, I also worked on Salesforce. I started my journey itself with Salesforce back in 2012. So in Dell, I used to work on Salesforce. I used to maintain the lead and campaign sections and PR as well. So we have a different tools as well for nowadays specific for Salesforce testing. But anyways, for automation engineer, you don't have to stick to any application, right? You will get an application, you have to write the automated test, but there are multiple dedicated tools nowadays available only for Salesforce. So go ahead, it's like evergreen market. Okay, is there any link between the reporter class and the TestNG output? Yes, Manoj, I showed you just now, right? If you use reporter.log, you can actually print the log in your HTML reports, but with system.out.println it will only stick to the console. Shubhas, okay, Manoj says, is there an ideal use of reporter class? Not much, Manoj. If you're using extend report, then see, this is like free thing you're getting. If you use it, it's good. If you're not, that is also fine. Shubha says, if I'm using this reporter, is it okay if I do not use log4j? See, Shubha, Allure report and extend report or additional library that we use, right? They internally uses log4j. So if you are using log4j externally, because log4j can generate your logs in HTML file, text file, JSON file as well, right? So they log4j is giving you different kind of outputs that also you can consume and generate your own report. You can feed that log in your DB, and if you want to generate some history based report also, you can do that, right? Because these reports will be flashed, because the moment you run your next test, these reports will be gone, right? So don't compare this with log4j. Rohit Shinde says, okay, Rohit, you have to use the latest IDE, then only you will get this option. If you're not getting, just right click and continue with TestNG test. Yes, can we write assert equals L1 dot contains L2? Yes. See, in that case, you have to go with assert true, Shravan, right? Because contains will return you true or false. Assert equals is expecting true. So there was one question from Shravan. Shravan says, Mukesh, can we write like this? Okay, let me comment this. Assert true, L1 contains L2. Okay, now if you see this part, now L1, we are checking L1 is containing L2. As of now, these are the two different containers altogether, right? But if you try to compare the values, then it will be making more sense. So you can run a loop and do it. Now in this case, if you just put mouse over, it is giving you a warning. But let's run it. And if you see, there's a one failure. And if you just open this test3, and if you open the exactly line number 55, you will be getting error, right? Because it does not contain, they are separate. If you talk about the values, if you compare, then it will give you true. But as of now, these containers are totally different. Okay, Shravan, I hope you got my answer. Now let's move on to the soft assert. So for that, let me create another class, and for this I will say assertion demo, or maybe I will say assertion soft assertion. I will remove everything not required. Now just type soft, and see, soft assertion is the class that I have created, right? Soft assert is a separate class, and if you see, it says when when assertion fails, don't throw an exception but record the failure. Basically, internally it creates a list. In that list, it will keep adding the number of exceptions that you're getting in your test. Calling assert all will cause an exception to be thrown if at least one assertion failed. For example, if you have 10 assertions in your test, you can have one test and 10 assertion, or 10 test 10 assertion, but at the end you have to call assert all. So when you say assert all, then only it checks if this list have any of the failure. If yes, it will fail, otherwise it will pass. For example, if I create object of assert, soft assert, let's say soft assert equal to new soft assert. Now you can continue. You will find exactly same methods. Okay, so if you say soft assert dot, can you see assert equals with all the overloaded methods, assert equals with 3 arguments, assert false, assert true, assert not equals, asserts okay, there's one more called assert same, assert null, and so on. So let me call assert equals, okay, let me write true false, okay, maybe true and false. Obviously this will fail, but I want to write, let's say reporter dot log, I will say test started, and let me make it true, and let me also say this time test failed, or maybe test ended, and true again. But if I say soft assert dot assert all, you will notice a different output. See, the final result, obviously it will fail because true is not equal to false. So if I run this soft assertion, but can you see the difference here? It actually executed the test started, it did the assertion, it failed, but still it did not stop the execution. It executed the next statement. But the moment I call assert all, it checked in this list, do I have any failure? Yes. Then it says assertion error, and the same thing, expected what false but found true. So I hope you got the big difference. This will fail immediately, this will fail at the end, so it will continue with the execution, but it will keep adding the record and it will fail. Now if you open this soft assert class, okay, it is actually extending another class called assertion class, and if you open this assertion class, then it uses one separate interface. It actually implements this iAssert lifecycle. So all the methods that you see, right, is coming from assertion. Yeah, makes sense. Now if I open this assert all, internally it calls one assert all methods, and can you see what it basically does? It checks, it actually creates object of string builder. So if any assertion comes, it will keep appending, okay, and once it is done, you will get the final object, which is SB, and you will get the list of assertions failure that in your test. If it is empty, it's okay. If it is not empty, then only it will execute. So you don't need to worry about this code. It is an internal implementation. It is just I am showing you, and this list is, I just gave one of the example how it is. But behind the scene, if you see, it's actually using string builder. Okay, I hope it is clear now. Now you could have asked one question, Mukesh, when do we use soft assert? When do you use normal assert? Mostly you will be using this assert, but suppose if you have some basic assertion in your test that you just want to verify the title. See, if the title mismatch, it's not a big deal, but still your main functionality is working, application functionality is working, right? So whenever you have some basic assertion, that is important, but not that important that you should stop the complete execution, right? In that case, go with the soft assert. But even if you don't want to go with soft assert, it's perfectly fine. You can still continue with assert and fail immediately the moment your assertions are not true. So it's Nishant, it is mandatory. Okay, so if you don't execute, you will not get the features of how it works. See, even if the assertion is getting failed, right, true is not equal to false, but the moment you see the output, it's getting success, because the main magic happens when you call assert.all, and this is the code I showed you, right? The moment I say assert all, it checks this M error, right? So the messages, if it is not empty, then only do this. So it is important. You cannot skip this. So Pooja says, if I use assert all at line 19, line 40. See Pooja, you should do the assert all at the end of the complete assertion, because this is where it will collect all the information. After that, it will record the failure. So it should be at the last. Okay. Now let's continue. I can see two more questions. Ayappa Kumar says, hi Mukesh, what is invocation timeout means? Okay, Abhishek says, why my TestNG is skipping every test case in the test suite, showing TestNG exception. Okay. Sandeep says, is it beneficial to make TestNG at runtime or programmatically? Okay, so if you talk about this, if I talk about number of attributes, right? This is the time. Okay, so Ayappa, we have invocation count. Basically, let's say I want to run my test 5 times, 10 times, 50 times. So you can use one of the attribute called invocation count. It says number of times this method will be executed. And if I say invocation timeout, it says maximum number of milliseconds that the total number of invocation on this test method should take. So this has to be along with the invocation count. So generally I don't prefer this invocation count. So if you have to run test multiple times, go with the data provider, because in real time you will be getting data anyways from the data providers, right? So whether you write single record or multiple, based on the records it will run your test cases, right? So if you have to run your test multiple times, go with the DDT, which is using data provider. So let's take the second question by Abhishek. Abhishek says, why my TestNG skipping every test case in test. Abhishek, this is a proper case of TestNG version mismatch. So the latest version, if I'm not wrong, is 7.6 something. Try to degrade this issue I got in my previous project, that it was not even running my single test cases because it got updated to the latest one. Try to use -1 or -2, and make sure the TestNG version, TestNG plugin and the TestNG version should be same. For example, if I show you my marketplace, sorry, let's click on install new software. Let me see what is already installed. See, my TestNG version is 7.4.0, and if I'm using, let's say, 7.5.0 in your pom.xml file, there's a mismatch. Sometimes because of this issue also you will get this kind of behaviors where your XML is not running your test. So check the plugin version and use the same version in your pom.xml file. Sandeep says, is it beneficial to make? Yes, I generally don't create my XML at runtime. I group them in XML. I just make sure that they should accept the parameters, because tomorrow if I want to make any changes, I don't want to change my test cases. I will pass the parameters and I will write the very meaningful name of the test suites, because when you create at runtime, right, programmatically, you will not get this option. So go with the XML file. Okay, Ravi is asking, can we create custom annotations in TestNG? If yes, where it will be? So Ravi, like, frankly, I have not created any annotation from my side. So maybe I have to check. I did not get any requirement or any need as such where I have to create my custom annotations. So maybe you can give a try. I will also check if it is possible. If yes, then how? If you have any custom requirement, Ravi, where you need to create, let me know what is the exact requirement. Okay guys, so I hope this assertion part is clear to all of you. If yes, then give me quick confirmation so that I can move to the next topic. Now let us understand one XML file, because this XML file have a lot of things. From this you will understand the behavior, plus you will get the different level of annotations that we have. How do we pass the parameter? What is the thread count? What is the parallel attribute? Because this XML file is going to control the complete test, number of tests that you have in your project. So let me just open the Sublime text editor. Okay. Now, how do we create this XML file? So what exactly is testng.xml file? So this XML file, as the name says, this is the main XML file which can control how you want to run your test cases. Okay. So suppose if you have 5 to 6 packages, each packages have multiple classes, each classes have multiple methods. How do you want to run them? How do you want to execute them? Do you want to run sequentially, parallelly, dependent? So you can actually control them with the help of this XML. What parameters you want to pass and so on. So this is the main file. You can create this XML file manually. So you can right click on your project. You can click on file. You can give a file name testng.xml file, add the DTD and add the tags and continue. That's a manual approach, not recommended, because the moment you add this TestNG plugin, you will get this option where you can automatically create this XML file based on the package selection. So I can right click on this package, and if this packages have if these test classes have @test annotations, then it will identify, it will add them in this XML. If you have a package, in that package 5 is publish static void main, 5 is testng test, it will only detect the testng test. The publish static void main will not be added here. Can we have multiple XML? Yes, there's no restriction. You can have n number of XML in your project. You can have smoke.xml, regression.xml, end-to-end.xml. If you have any specific module, any specific sub-module, based on that also you can categorize XML. So it's totally up to you. How do you want to have these XMLs? But pom.xml should be one. Okay, that should be one. Using pom.xml, you can trigger single XML, multiple XML, that we will see probably tomorrow or maybe Friday. But there's no restriction on number of XML files. Now, how do we create this XML? Just right click on your project, and the second last option you will see called TestNG. If you just click on this, convert to TestNG, it is going to give you this generate testng.xml pop-up. So let me copy this and let me show you statement by statement. But before that, if you notice here, it is actually detecting only the classes which have test annotation, right? You can see I have multiple packages, right? I have interview package, Selenium Java. So in Selenium Java, we had one test, so it has detected, and the remaining 4 classes. So as of now, let's say I just want to execute the last 4. Okay, assertion demo, my test 2, and soft assertion. If I copy this, now let's understand this. So this is the location. It says where do you want to store this at testng.xml. By default, it goes to your project root directory. In our case, it's TestNG. Okay. Then suite. So you can define the test suite name. By default, if you don't give, it takes suite. Many people call this a suite. Call it suite. I will stick to suite. Test name. So I will stick to test here. We will rename it later on. Now this is the main guy. Class selection. Right now, these classes. Generally this class selection based on the classes. How do you want to categorize? Default is classes, don't change it. Now these are the two main part. Parallel mode. How do you want to run your test cases? By default set to none. It means if you have 4 classes, it will execute one by one. No parallel execution by default. What is the thread count? Thread count, if you see here, it is set to 5, but until you don't give the parallel equal to classes, parallel equal to methods, parallel equal to test, it's not going to create any impact. It has thread counts, but how do you want to distribute this thread? There's no mention on this, right? So even if your thread count, if this is none, it will not add much value. Okay. Now, I was actually reading a couple of questions. Maybe we'll take that after this. Now, after this, the actual part will start. So for this, let's understand this. So this is how we comment in XML. So I don't need this comment. I will remove it. So the main part start from here. Can you see a parent tag called suite tag? This is how we end the each tag in XML. So open and close. Inside this, you can see we have one more test tag. Here we have the test name and the thread count. Right now we don't need, I can even remove it, not required at all. Now you can see inside this test tag we have classes. So we have a suite tag and one test suite, right? Now we can have the multiple test tag as well. So each test tag will represent a separate test suite. I will repeat again. As of now, we have just one test tag, 4 classes, but I can actually create 4 test suite now and 1 class in each test suite. That is also possible. That I will show you. As of now, let me just keep this as learn automation. I'm changing this, and this I will say, let's say smoke test. And now inside this test tag, I have 4 classes. If you remove one of them, it will not even execute. It will stick to 3. But if you want to add from the different package also, that is fine. So right now it is taking from the same package, right, which we created today, TestNG examples. But if I want to take from a different package altogether, yes, you just need to give the full name. So basically we're in the same project, so package name and the class name. Now let's go ahead and create this. Click on next. So basically it is giving you that this is the original source, this is the refactored source, which is fine. Click on finish. Okay, it is giving one error here. What is this? Okay, so it took by default, like it took some additional class. Okay, so you have to fix this. So it was taking some assert JUnit, I removed it. Now we have this testng.xml file. Okay, now again it is the same, so I can just remove it and I can change it here. Now the moment I run this, you will see some changes in the console output. You will see some changes in the report as well. So what I will do, I will delete this existing test output. Okay, and let's run it from the scratch. You can even change the name. Can you see it actually executed the complete test cases? Total execution 12, pass 6, 4 failure, 2 skip. And if I see this result, now the complete hierarchy have changed. Initially it was showing default suite, default test, right? Now if you notice, this is the parent suite, learn automation, which is equal to this guy. Then I have used one smoke for this test tag, so it is showing us here. Then we have multiple classes as usual, and for each classes we have multiple tests. So 1 test, 3 test, 4 test cases, and again 4. And even if you see the report part, if you just do the refresh, you will see test output folder. And did you notice the folder name itself changed? Initially it was default suite, right? Since we have changed this, and since we have one test tag, it will generate one additional file for each test tag. So if I have 3 test tag in the same XML, 3 different HTML report you will get. That also I will show you. But this is your what you will give in the suite tag, and this is your smoke. Now if you open this, okay, it's showing us here. Let me, this is the report part. Yeah, and if I open this index.html, so we have different categories for the failed tag category, skip category, and the pass category, and this is the XML. Now if you notice, it's not taking from the temporary directory, it's detecting our local directory and continue. Yeah, so this is the 4 classes that we have: timers, ignored methods we don't have, and chronicle view. This is when you have created your own XML, and now we have not made much changes, just we have changed the suite name and the test tag name, and rest everything is same. Now can I rename this? Yes, why not? It's totally up to you what name you want to give. Now let me make a slight change. I'm not going to create any classes. Okay, let me make the changes directly here. I want 3 test tag. Okay, let me call this as a smoke, this as a regression, this as a end to end. So the first class I want to keep in the first test suite. Okay, then the second one in the second one, and the last 2 in the third, which is end to end. So basically if you see, I have one XML, 3 test tag, each test tag have a different classes. Still number of classes are 4, but I have categorized them and I have given a different name. So this first test tag is smoke, then regression, and end to end. Now before we execute, you will find one error. Okay, now what I'm saying, if you notice, 2 test tags have the exact same name. So if I execute them, you will see one TestNG exception. So we have seen Java assertions, then we have seen Selenium assertions. Now we are getting TestNG exception. It says 2 tests in the same suite, learn automation, cannot have the same name, which is regression. Okay, so make sure you give the different name. Now let's run them. Yes, it executed same, but if you see, now the reporting is changed. Now there's a learn automation. Now we have 3 categories: smoke, regression, end to end, and each category have certain test classes and test methods. And you will see the drastic change in the reporting if I just delete the previous output folder. Okay, anyways, it is overriding, so I can just do the refresh part. Can you see learn automation now has 3 XML, 1 XML for smoke, one XML for regression, one XML for end to end. So you have separate XML for each test tag, and if you just open this final report, which is emailable report, can you see the reporting? Here it says only one failure for regression, 3 pass for E to E, 3 passed, 2 skipped, and 3 failed. So total 6 passed, 2 skipped, and 4 failure. So it is exactly same. It is just when you structure them, it is changing in a reporting format. But at the end of the day, you're still running the classes that you have created and the methods that you have created. Make sense? Now I will do a small change here, but before that I want to quickly check with all of you. Did you get this testng.xml concept? What is XML? How to create this XML? How to execute? Now there's a very interesting question by Jatin. Jatin says, you said that we can have many XMLs. What if we need to execute smoke test cases from a single XML file? So Jatin, generally what happens, let's say you have 5 XMLs or maybe 10 or 50 XMLs. So obviously you are not going to execute all of them every time, right? So let's say you want to only run smoke test cases or regression or maybe some. So you can actually pass these XML as part of argument. So your pom.xml will accept one argument called XML files. So whatever XML files you will pass, it will execute only that XMLs. If you pass 3 XMLs, it will run 3. If you pass 1 XML, 1. But if you hard code all the XMLs, then pom.xml will run all the testng.xml that you have written. Plus, you can actually pass which group you want to run. All this can be done using CLI commands. You can pass which test you want to run, which groups you want to run. Okay, everything you can do using CLI. If you just go here, if I show you one separate class called TestNG class, there's a separate class called TestNG. Okay, if you open this class and let me search one method here called main method. Yeah, there's a interview question that how TestNG is running with it without public static void main. But if you see internally, it's running public static void main. It is taking all the arguments that you're running. Then if you open this method, right, private main, this is the exact line which I was talking about. So Jatin, if you see line number 1351, we have a dedicated class called command line arguments. Here it can accept the arguments that you're passing. You can pass the groups, you can pass the methods, and whatever arguments you add, it will keep adding, and it will run your class accordingly. Okay, so we already covered one question, how TestNG is running without public static void main, but it is internally calling public static void main. Now if I take the second question, how can we execute XML file based on certain order? So Subhash, you can also create a separate one is using pom.xml. Okay, so using Maven Surefire plugin, whatever XML files you will add, it will run, or you can pass through command line. You can also create a test suite, or you can create one more XML. This XML can run multiple XML as well. So you can run based on that as well. Vivek Shirvansi says, how many sessions are planning? So Vivek, hardly 2 more. So from Monday I will be starting a Cypress series. So Thursday and Friday 2 more sessions we will be having. So Mahesh says, suppose I want to execute only 2 test cases in that XML. You can use include and exclude. Okay. Vivek says, can we configure execution of test cases in TestNG classes from an Excel external file? So Vivek, see, in this case, you have to read a flag. So this mostly happens when you are building a keyword driven framework, or sometime if you have just data driven framework, but you want to skip certain records or certain tests. So suppose if I'm assuming your Excel is something like you have the test case name, you have true or false. In that case, you have to read this true false, and based on that, you have to decide whether you want to execute this test or not. So this you can pass as an argument. So the complete data provider will read this and this, get the second flag. If it is true, execute the test. If not, then fail the test. Oh, sorry, skip the test. But I generally don't prefer this Excel based. The reason is, suppose I don't want to run few test cases. Why should I change my Excel again and again? Can't we keep this as an argument? So I always recommend passing arguments, because once you have this argument practice, right, you can pass this from CI/CD. In every CI/CD tool have arguments, or I will say parameters. But in your approach in Excel case, even if I have to include few tests or exclude few tests, every time I have to change my Excel sheet, right? So if I have to run my test overnight, and if I include exclude, not possible. You will always have this manual interaction of changing this Excel file. So personally, I don't recommend, but if you have, please try this. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. It's already 8. Let me see if we can extend this session. Now let me take few more questions. Mahesh says, what is page factory annotations? So Mahesh, we discussed already. Page factory class we discussed. Okay, page factory annotations, probably Friday we will discuss. Sumita Manoharan says, will you take cucumber session like this? Not planned, Sumita. Monday we are starting Cypress series, most probably. Monday to Friday, a new series on Cypress. In case if you guys are interested, or maybe your new project is coming on Cypress, please attend. Harsh says, okay, there's one more question by Archana. What is the difference between pom.xml and testng.xml? See, pom.xml is your main XML which maintains your complete project. Here you can have the dependencies, here you can have the plugins. So pom.xml file is part of Maven. TestNG is coming from testing.xml is coming from TestNG, right? So it will help you to control your test. But pom.xml can maintain the complete build lifecycle. So suppose you want to build your project, then you want to run certain test cases, then you want to have some plugin which will deploy some activities. So this can be done with the help of pom.xml file. So we also something on Maven build lifecycle. So this build lifecycle can be controlled using your pom.xml file. This is heart of your project. You can customize anything, but TestNG is only from TestNG. Okay, which maintains your TestNG test. You can make certain changes, but pom.xml file is again is testng.xml. As of now we are adding, but if you have, let's say, unit test cases, you want to integrate JUnit, you want to, let's say, configure some code coverage, so everything you can configure in pom.xml, but TestNG is only limited to TestNG test that we have. Okay, Harsh says, sir, when I put launch browser with before suite, now I have two XML in another XML. Harsh, I did not get your question. So basically, before suite will only execute before running all the tests. Okay, so generally report generation activity we keep inside before suite, and report closing activity, database closing activities, any file connection we generally keep in after suite. Opening part we keep in before suite. Browser part I personally maintain with class based, because suppose if I have 5 test cases, I don't want to start 5 browsers. Okay, so one browser, run all my test cases, close the browser. So browser level invocation I keep in before class, closing I keep in after class, reporting part I keep in before suite and after suite. Nishant says, can we create multiple XML in project? Will I get an error? No, Nishant, see, I can create multiple XML. So let's do one thing. So I will say this is my project 2.xml. I can have one project 1.xml. So in project 1, I just want to maintain only one test tag. Okay, so I can remove it. In the project 2.xml, I can have the last two. You can have multiple XML. You can run independently, plus you can parameterize them with the help of Maven Surefire plugin. You can pass here. So using -d, you can pass any XML. Muhammad Aman says, Mac or Windows, which laptop should I buy for coding? So Aman, it's about the budget part. Okay, both is fine. Even if you have the Linux machine, it's fine. But if you go with the Mac, obviously you will get more speed, right? I am using Mac right now, but there are few restrictions, right? For everything you need to buy a license here, but with Windows you can do small hacks. You can get some tricks and you can purchase some, like you can use some softwares without even license. But with Mac, everything is smooth. Go with proper authentication. Buy licenses. So depends on budget, but for coding, go with either Mac, Windows, doesn't matter. It's all about your budget. But let's say if you want to do iOS development, okay, that is only possible using Mac, because for that you need Xcode. Xcode does not support in Windows. Or let's say you want to use Adobe, this one editing tool we have, right? That is only in Mac. Like ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is only available for Mac. So if you have that kind of requirement, go with Mac. But mostly everything is supported in both the operating system. But for coding, go with Mac if you are focusing on the iOS development. Okay, Vivek says, will you take some session on regarding Git, SCM, Jenkins? So Vivek, I already have 25 videos on Jenkins, 3 videos on Git as well. So already put a lot of videos on that. Yes, Vivek, thank you. Final Cut Pro. Can we get material or total documentation? So guys, whatever classes we discussed so far, everything is uploaded on iNeuron portal. All the files which I'm creating, all the codes that we are discussing, everything is available on iNeuron portal. Just go to that portal. You will find, you have to enroll. It's free. I can show you now. There you will find all the materials. Okay, just search for automation. I will give you the link directly. You can see web automation community classes. It's free. You can click on enroll now. Then you will find the dashboard. Just go to the dashboard, click on the specific class, and yeah, you can access all these resources. Fine. So it's already 8. Let's discuss the remaining part tomorrow. Tomorrow is very important. Tomorrow we'll do the parallel execution with cross browser. Okay, so don't miss the session tomorrow. If time permits, we will also talk about different annotations that we have, plus the data provider as well. Rakesh says your teaching is very good, sir. Thank you so much, Rakesh. Ayappa says GitHub Actions, any video can expect. So Ayappa, I don't have any video, but what I did, I already kept everything on my repository. So if you just go ahead and check this Maven Jenkins, you can see I already created couple of workflows. You can directly use this workflow as a reference and you can start creating. So here I have added the different workflow. So the first workflow is based on 3 different platforms. One run on Mac, one runs on Windows, one run on Linux. Second one is based on dependencies, and the third one is based on the scheduler. So I will just give you the link. Please have a look. And those who are interested in JavaScript based automation tools, I'm starting a new batch from 16th. So this is the course link. Please go ahead and check out if you're interested. You can use a coupon code called Mukesh Otwani 10 for 10 additional 10% discount. Can you explain the thread count? So Manoj, tomorrow anyways we are going to discuss this, so wait for tomorrow. Sumita says I'm not able to do email verification in iNeuron. That's strange. Sumita, just give a try with a different email, maybe some issue. Abhishek says thank you so much, sir. It was very productive session. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Vivek says, does TestNG report suffice, or do we need a fancy report like LO report? Yes, go with extend report minimum. Okay, so that's all from my side. Tomorrow we'll continue, and we'll do the cross-browser testing, sequential execution, parallel execution, and if time permits, data-driven test as well, and different annotations in TestNG. So before we end the session, can you guys tell me anything new that you have learned from this session which you haven't seen in the past, or anything which is not clear? Let me know so that we can discuss in the next. Anything. Okay, so Shabana says thanks for your session, Magar. Thank you so much, Shabana, and thank you so much for attending till the last. Okay, any more question, feedback, suggestions, anything that you learned new today? Ayappa says reporter.log. Okay. Dhyanidhi, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Shravan, testng.xml related. So we have so many things in testng.xml. I just covered maybe 10%. We have so many things that we need to cover in testng.xml testng.xml. Obviously in this community session not everything can be covered, but yeah, I will try my best to cover even after this community sessions. Okay, Manoj says assert related things very clear. Shravan says reporter.log. Perfect. New testng file I learned in real time. Do we need execute testng? Okay, great. Any email contact? So this is my email in case if you guys have some issues. This is my email, Mukesh Otwani @learn-automation.com. Nishan says assert. Okay. Subhash says, will you cover Selenium Grid right as part of parallel execution? So Subhash, one is parallel execution on the local system. So right now, let's say I have 3 browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Edge. So when you say cross browser, it means you will be doing cross browser in the same system. If you have multiple systems, let's say one system, 3 browsers, second system, 3 browsers, one system, one more. In that case, you need grid. Okay. So not sure if the time permits, we'll do that. Otherwise tomorrow in the same machines, multiple browsers, I will show how to run them parallelly. I already have planned to record a video on Selenium Grid 4 new features which they have added with dynamic grid. So not in this community sessions, but just like my regular YouTube videos I will upload. What is the flow of TestNG project? So Devendra, what do you mean by TestNG project? There's nothing called TestNG project. TestNG is one of the unit test framework that we're using, right? You will be using some part of it to implement your, like, to build your framework, and you will execute. So nothing called TestNG project. Vivek says, do you take Java sessions too needed for Vivek? I do. I take live sessions right now. The current batch which I'm running with Unacademy, it started on 28th May, I guess. Yes, and it will end on 28th of August. New batch will start in September first week. That will be with iNeuron. So the course details, everything will be published very soon. But I have around 24 videos on my YouTube videos if you want to have a look. We have Saurabh Chauhan. Thank you. Thank you so much, Saurabh. And we'll meet in Pune. Vivek says, Mukesh, you're a great trainer. Emphasize on concepts first thing. Thank you so much, Vivek. How to handle single window when we have multiple window open? Abhishek, there are two videos I have on this. One I recorded in 2015. The same video recorded in 2018 or 19. So first video had some voice issue, so created the same video again. So please have a look. Okay, so last question, then we can end. So Parida Pollard says, hi Mukesh, can you please cover the hybrid framework integrated with TestNG and Cucumber framework? So Parida, I have a hybrid framework with TestNG, but that is BDD I have not added. That series also uploaded in 2019, 9 videos in a playlist. But again, that playlist needs a refreshment. I need to add a couple of libraries. So let's see. And Cucumber series I created 2016 with Cucumber 2. So that also I need to update. Let's see. Just because of some timing issues, I'm not able to upload many videos. But I have so many things in the pipeline. Subhashish needs some idea on how to configure grid for different machines. Okay, Subhash, okay, let me see if I can give you the documentation right away. Everything is explained. They have one Docker compose file with Tom file. You just need these two files and just execute. Everything will be covered on the fly with video recording. So if I show you the documentation right away, just search for Selenium Grid for GitHub. Okay, they moved here. Okay, just a second, not this part. Yes, exactly this one. So if you see this dynamic grid part, right, you just need this toml file, and you need this just a second, yeah, this Docker Compose v3 dynamic grid, and that's all. In order to run, you need to add certain flag, and you can actually configure. You'll find your videos as well, okay, on this. If not, then I will try to make video on this. So Jatin says, Subhash, for grid you need to have registration Selenium. See Jatin, that is the old approach. Now everything is available as part of Docker image. You don't need to run a separate command, java space -jar file name, again flag. Everything is available as part of Docker image. Just run this Docker image, and basically now they have given a Docker compose file where they have set of services. So the moment you deploy this YAML file, right, which is Docker compose YAML file, it will run multiple containers. It will set up everything. It will set up hub. It will set up node. For each test execution, there's separate container for video recording as well. So once the test will done, it will download this video recording to your local system if you have done the mapping correctly. And this is the dynamic grid. So it means if you have 3 execution, 3 containers, more execution, more containers, and so on. So Jatin, you are also correct, but that is a older approach. Okay, that's all from my side. So last question by Vivek: can we get access to the ongoing course or buy it later from Unacademy? So Vivek, that actually is closed now. So no more enrollment they are accepting, but I will keep you posted. In September we are starting. So this has started in 28th May. So I will keep you posted. So again, we have added few more things in this time, and a lot of new things will be covered. Okay, so Manoj, I already have 4 to 5 videos on Docker with Selenium, but that is again with if I'm not in 2018, 2019. Again, so many things have changed. Even the Docker installation has been changed. But still, if you want to have a look, please check, because that is already covered. And that also I covered with Selenium. So Selenium is basically internally uses Kubernetes, which is K8s, and it can scale up and scale down your number of containers. So suppose by default it has, I guess, 2 nodes as a container, but if you have 10 requests, it will automatically create 10 containers. But the moment you don't have further requests, it will remove all these containers. Default it will keep 2. Okay, so yes, Ravi, we can scale up and scale down as well using dynamic grid in Selenium 4. Okay, so that's all from my side, guys. I will see you all tomorrow, and we'll continue with cross browser with parallel execution. Thank you so much. Have a nice day, and